Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Cho and Ankri for inviting me to share my experience and observations with my involvement of the AISC Code Committees on the development of the 2022 edition of AISC Seismic Provisions, or AISC 341. This one, okay, just like all the other building codes, the AISC seismic provisions are getting thicker and thicker, as we know. Even though that the AISC 341 is getting thicker and thicker, but in general, that we can say all the design requirement can be grouped into two categories. One is on the capacity design requirement, and the other one is ductility requirement. Okay, we generally tend to think that the AISC, that the seismic codes is full of ductility requirement. If you take a closer look of the AISC 341, you realize the majority of the requirements are related to capacity design, actually. Okay, as for the ductility design requirement, there are different kind of provisions in terms of the material, detailing, and the stability requirement. And it is the stability requirement, in particular, the section level on local buckling is the focus of my presentation today. The figure to the right shows you, just like if you have an I-shaped column, we know that we have to check the so-called width thickness ratio, or the B over T, for the flanges and for the web. Let's first take a quick look of the history of this AISC 341. The first edition was published in 1990. Okay, and over the years, it has gone through different revision and update. Up to the 2016, which is AISC 341-16, the local buckling requirements is contained in table D1.1. And the latest edition, that is the 22 edition, that was actually, even though it's 2022, it was released to the public a few months ago. And because of my heavy involvement in this code update, I would like to share with you several issues. Actually, most of them are initiated by me, and that has some significant impact to this local buckling requirement. And in my presentation, I would also share with you the problems I see and the complaints arise due to the changes in this code process. Okay, so I will go through one by one those topics. The first one is related to the format change. Or to some extent, it's related to the R factor. It is to the R factor. The R factor, what is the R factor? As we know in the seismic design code, it was first introduced in AISC 341 after the 1994 Northridge earthquake. And it's mainly for capacity design, because we want to estimate what is the expected force, okay, for capacity design for those members that are not supposed to yield and to give in. So according to 341, the expected yield force is equal to the nominal Fy, yield force, multiplied by that Ry factor. Ry factor usually is larger than 1. Okay, for example, 1.1, that is for the I shape or the roll the W shape, is 1.1. But for some other members, like the HSS, hollow structure, the tubular member, hollow structure section members, that Ry, sorry, that is, there's a typo there, Ry can be as high as 1.3 or 1.4. It's a very large number. I claim that when we started the update for the 22 edition, I made a claim at the AISC committee. I said the way we did probably is not right. Okay, it's not right. Why I say that? The problem is taking the 1997 edition, for example, we have the B over T limit. We know the B over T cannot be too large. So usually we express the limit as a function of a coefficient in the numerator, in this case C1, and the denominator usually most often is a square root of the yield stress, the Fy. And to the right, that the column, I just give you one example. You can use W shape, or you can use the HSS, the tubular section in this case. Then, that is the equation that is given in the 1997. And in the 2010, we change it slightly because in 97, Fy has to be in KSI. We don't like it, right? We like to follow the international trend. So we like to have in the normalized term. So in 2010, the denominator, we normalize the Fy by the Young's modulus, right? Then it becomes, it's more or less independent of the unit to be used. So the formula is changed, but in that conversion from 1997 to 2010, the code committee did not want to change the limit, the outcome, the final value. In other words, we just tuned at the C2 such that the B over T limit is the same as in the previous edition. That's what I've been doing. Then comes to the 2016, that is the one which is still being used before the 2022 edition will be kicked in say 2 years. Okay, so currently engineers in the US, they are using the 2016 edition. So from the 2010 to 2016, there's a change. The committee, the seismic committee at that time, decided to incorporate that RY factor. So in that case, again, they don't want to change the outcome. So they just change the format. So they introduce that RY. So you can see because RY is larger than 1, so the numerator for the HSS, because RY is pretty large, it's 1.4 at that time when they do the conversion. So the numerator is changed from 0.55 to 0.65. Okay, to 0.65. This history is very important. Okay, once you see the new code, you understand what is happening. Okay, those are the background information. So they don't want to change anything, but they change the format, and they introduce the RY. And as I said in the beginning of the code update process, I said probably something is not right. So in the 22 edition draft, okay, the committee was drafting the requirement, and I claim probably the way we did is not right. Because we the researchers, if you're a steel researcher, we know, whenever we propose an equation, for example, like the local buckling requirement, we are actually using the measured Fy. We are not using the nominal Fy to report our recommendation, okay? So Fy, but the code committee, when they take the equation for the past half a century, they rename the Fy to be the nominal Fy. So there's inconsistency, and I claim it's wrong, the way we do. It is wrong, okay? So in the 2010, like that one, because it changed from the old days, we have the Fy there, and I claim it should not be the nominal Fy, because with the researcher usually use the expected Fy. So for design, that Fy actually is the expected Fy, RY Fy. So you should use the same C2. That is the major change that we introduced in the 22 edition. So once you open the 2022, you'll see most of the coefficient is changed. Changed to the 2010 edition. You know what I mean? It changed to the 2010 edition. Okay, and also in the from 2010 to 2016, in that conversion there was a problem. For example, in diagonal brace, if you use the double angles, the RY is 1.1. If you use HSS, okay, then it's 1.4. Now we use 1.3, depending on what grade of steel you use. So they have to make a decision in doing that conversion. If you use 1.4, you effectively are penalized, say, diagonal braces with dipole angle or other material type. So that is one of the problems. So that is one very important decision. Now you see why, the code committee changed their mind to the 2010. Now the coefficient becomes the 2010. So that is the first important change. Okay, I initiate that. It caused some problem. After we introduce that one, then there's one particular industry, the steel tube industry, they said they realized their product are penalized. Because with that, going back to that 0.55, they realized even fewer sections can be used for seismic design, that impact the practical application. So they complain a lot. And also some researchers, mainly researchers at the University of Washington, okay, they said, no, we think it's fine. We think it's fine. Why do you want to change? So it's a compromise because this was it at the very, very end of that code revision process, and we ran out of time. So finally, the AISC says, okay, we don't want to touch it. Let's put it back to 0.65. That's what is happening, politics. Okay, so that's what do we do? That we do not change that. Because, why? Because the RY is 1.3 or 1.4. That particular HSS industry got hit a lot. Because of that problem, okay, so AISC decided to fund a research project to study this issue. Okay, they initiate a test program at the University of Washington. They have done a lot of braces testing. Okay, they want to do more, and then with some finite element simulation to justify that. The goal is to whether we can justify the 1.65 coefficient that we have now, or should we change it? Okay, but I see, okay, even though I'm not involved in that, I see some challenges. Okay, what is loading protocol? We know for moment connection in the United States, we know there's AISC loading protocol. But for brace, what is the loading protocol? They have been using very, very old loading protocol, so-called ATC 24. So loading protocol. The other one is acceptance criteria. How do you define? You're cycling the brace back and forth. Eventually, it will rupture. And currently, they are saying when it ruptures, that's the end of the life. Is it reasonable or not? Irrespective of the level of degradation of strength, I have no idea. Okay, the researchers at the University of Washington, they have to take care of that. The goal is that hopefully in 1 year, they will make recommendations for the next edition, that is the 2027. Now let's go to the second change I introduced. I was mainly responsible for that. This is the good aspect of it. Nobody complained. Okay, up to the 2016 edition, we have a table. Okay, there's 3 pages. The Professor Cho show that table with 3 pages. I only show you the one. Okay, there are many cases covering different kind of situations. So this is one table. Okay, the table was created as a result of the effort done by the seismic committee over the past 20 or 30 years. So the code committee tried to incorporate all cases as much as they can while trying to make the table more compact. But sometimes engineers complain. It's very difficult to use. Sometimes it's also very confusing. Especially for the HSS or the build-up box column that the Professor Joe mentioned. Okay, sometimes it's not user-friendly. So in the 22 edition, I split that table into 2. Okay, there's the table D1.1a and the D1.1b. And this one motivation from me to split this table. First of all, I would like to make it user-friendly. And the main driving force is the HSS. HSS column get used a lot in Japan. Okay, all the build-up box column get used in Japan, also in Taiwan. Because with one table, we group the diagonal brace, HSS, under the column for special moment frame in one group, while the requirement is intended for diagonal brace. What does it mean? That means for HSS column that the BOFT limit, okay, for special moment frame column design will be severely penalized. Once we split it into one, okay, if you use HSS for diagonal brace, then it's very clear, just do whatever you have here. But if you use that, okay, sorry. Oh, all members except diagonal brace, right? That means beams and the columns. Then there's another table. We keep the same limit for the time being, but the goal is in the next quarter cycle, we want to relax it. And based on what we're seeing from the Japanese code, we believe that the BOFT limit for the HSS column can be relaxed significantly by at least 50%, if not more. Okay, that is the goal. So we like to relax that requirement. That is the first bullet item. That is our goal. Okay, encouraged by the requirement in Japan, and Professor Cho also mentioned based on his testing of the built-up box columns. So AISC then initiated some research project. Okay, some for testing. We have a plan for testing 8 jumbo, large size HSS columns at the UCSD. So far, we have tested only 1 in the summer, and with some finite element simulation done by Professor McCormick at the University of Michigan. Through this AISC-sponsored research project, that we also work with ANCRI team, okay, because at the ANCRI, Professor Wu has already done some small size HSS column test. When I was here last year, I saw those smaller column size. I got excited, so I talked to him, and we will continue to work with him by utilizing the smaller size column test. And Professor Wu and Professor Cho, they also agree to work on the build-up box columns because they get used quite a lot. And currently, in the AISC seismic provisions, that the HSS and the build-up box columns are grouped the same. In other words, the requirement is the same. We don't know whether it's true or not. So we are relying on the ANCRI team to provide design recommendations for the next edition. Okay, here I just show you one test, okay, that we did. This is the 16 by 16, that is about a 400 millimeter, the jumbo member. The BOFT is very large. It is way beyond the code limit, the BOFT 28. According to our current code, okay, if you want to use this for column, the BOFT probably is 11 or 12. So you can see we go way beyond. You can see significant local buckling, but look at the performance. Okay, actually it's not that bad. Well, it's very promising. We believe that we can relax that requirement. Okay, so for this testing, Professor Mosqueda was very helpful to conduct this testing for us with the load control to apply the actual load and the displacement control to impose the lateral drift. This is the second challenge, right? Okay, we split the table into 2 that paves the way to fine-tune, for example, the HSS column. So the HSS section, the BOFT limit, will not be held hostage by the requirement for diagonal brace. The third change is based on our study at the UC San Diego on I-shaped deep column that caused a very significant impact. Once this 22 edition of the seismic provision is in effect. I believe that engineers, especially in California, will complain a lot. They may complain a lot. Okay, the upper half is the requirement. Okay, there are 2 equations depending on the normalized axial force level. And our proposed equation, which was based on a research project by NIST. Okay, we test about 45 large size columns, and we develop that equation. That equation is much simpler. So engineers looking at the equation, they will thank us for this equation. But when they look at the next figure, then they will complain a lot. That is this figure. Okay, the horizontal axis is a normalized axial force. Okay, Dr. Rico talked about the column with the axial load, high axial load with bending moment. We're talking about the column. So when this is the normalized axial force 1, okay, for moment frame applications, usually the actual force is not high, okay, based on the practice in California. So you can see this is a 2016 edition, and our formula is like this. And here, it reduced a lot. But fortunately, for moment frame applications, we are not in that range. Okay, we are here. So you can see some direct impact. Okay, that is mainly because of the deep column. Because engineers in California or on the West Coast in high seismic regions, they like to use deep column to control story drift. They are counting on the moment of inertia. Okay, so that is the problem. And for the intermediate moment frame, actually our equation would relax the current code requirement regarding the B over T for the web. Why is that? Okay, as I mentioned to you, in the old days, 30 years ago, engineers like to use this kind of shallow column. But because of the stringent storage drift requirement in the code, nowadays, engineers like to use this one, and I'm showing you two sections. They have the same moment of inertia. Okay, strong to scale. So what is your observation? You can see the web, the B over T, or H over TW for the web is very large, very large. Actually, this one, because it's so slender, it will have hard time to restrain the flange from buckling. So that is one of the problem of the deep column. And in this one, where I'm using one example from the NIST project, W24, 2 feet, about 600 millimeter in depth. We test one, and you can see no axial load, just like a beam. I have an axial load. I double the axial load. I triple the axial load. You can see the effect is very significant if you use deep column because of the local buckling problem. In design, we treat the flange and the web local buckling independently. In reality, they interact. The flange and the web will interact, especially for deep column. Okay, this is one example. Okay, one of the testing, and we lay the column horizontally, and we apply axial load, then we drift back and forth. And then you can see the pressing information at both ends, and you can see the local buckling is very significant for the reason I explained to you, because the web is too slender to restrain the flanges. Okay, this is another one. Okay, this is the video. I don't know whether I can, okay, very, very short video. And this is also a deep column. Actually, this one is slightly heavier than the other one, and we're loading in plane, horizontal plane, in plane bending. And you can see that for this kind of column, okay, in computer model, we assume it will be a planar behavior, right? It will be planar behavior, but whenever you are using the deep column, you see this kind of phenomenon. When we first saw it, we said, what's that? We've never seen it before. And after testing on more than 10, then the NIST is saying, we don't believe that, test more. So we end up testing more. And we feel now we are very comfortable, to reproduce this kind of failure mode. This is a deep column phenomenon. And that is the reason why the B over T is relaxed a lot. And also, we also have the cooperation. Okay, UCSD and the anchoring had a cooperation on testing the deep column. Okay, at the UCSD, we only tested the isolated column. But here, Professor Chiu was able to test beam column sub-assemblage with the beam framing into it. Now the beam might have been removed, and we saw the same twisting phenomenon, out-of-plane behavior. Okay, they confirmed that this behavior is indeed true. Okay, it's not necessarily because of the isolated column that we saw it. So after this equation was introduced, then there again people were complaining. How about for brace frame? Because our equation was developed for deep column. But for brace frame, usually they try to use the shallow column, and then it's because the section is much stockier, so they said your equation should not be applied to braced frame column. And there's another aspect of it for braced frame column is the actual load is very high as compared to the moment frame columns, okay? And that's very high. So in that case, whenever it's high, but also it is cycling in nature. For most of the columns, interior columns, usually the actual load is pretty constant, except for the exterior column for the moment frame. But for brace frame, because of overturning effect, of course, the actual load varies from tension to compression. And our equation was not developed for that. So AISC decided to fund more study, ongoing study of 6 specimens. So far, we have tested 3. And we not only cycle the column back and forth to impose the storage drift, we also apply actual force. But actual force we kept at a certain level because it cannot be proportional to the storage drift. Because once a plastic mechanism is formed, the actual load will be saturated. That's how we did the testing. So that is the ongoing research, okay, because of the concerns that were raised in the 22 edition of the AISC provisions. And here that there's one preliminary result, okay, for a column we tested this summer. To the right is the column under varying actual load, It's the same shape, it's W14 by 132, it's a shallow column. If you apply a constant actual load, this is storage drift. And then you're cycling back and forth, cycling both. Because of local buckling, the column will shorten. We're talking about shortening 16 inch, 15 centimeter. Okay, 15 centimeter. That is very, very significant. Now, in this case, we have the normalized actual force equal to 0.3. For the testing we did in the summer 2 months ago, the actual load even went to 0.8, very, very high, very high. But it also went to minus 0.2, that means tension. And you can see the behavior is very, very different. You don't see the strength degradation. You see little local buckling once the actual load is under cyclic loading. It's very, very different. Okay, so that's the, and to the right you can see the shortening because not too much local buckling, so the shortening is also very limited. Okay, in this case, so that paves the way for the update for recommendation in the 2027 edition. We believe, I personally believe, because AIS expects us to develop a new equation for the next code cycle. What do you do with the brace frame column? And we believe using the point A, okay, once you do the seismic load combination based on AISC 7, and you use the worst case to design for column, in this case, use a point 8, we believe is extremely conservative. It's not needed. Okay? So that is one that we are expected to do, and here I just show you the comparison of the local buckling. Okay, so here I provide a summary for the 3 major changes that I'm mainly responsible for this addition, the local buckling requirement. Okay, so with this one, I will stop here for questions. Okay, thank you.